Hello Acolytes and welcome back to the channel. In the era of the prequel trilogy and the Clone Wars, there were countless what-if scenarios that could have completely changed the course of history as we know it. What if Anakin had been sent to Utapau instead of Obi-Wan to face General Grievous? What if Yoda personally didn't go to see the droid attack on the Wookiees and was present at the Jedi Temple during Order 66? And of course, even the smaller things, such as what if the Jedi had taken Dooku's warning to heart about there being a Sith Lord in the Senate just a little bit more seriously than they did. Every one of these things could have brought an end to the carefully laid out plans of Darth Sidious and brought it all to a swift and abrupt ending. One thing that has been brought to our attention is something that would actually seem rather obvious to do, and something that would have saved the Republic. The question is, why didn't the Jedi test Palpatine's blood for midichlorians? The midichlorians were an idea first introduced in The Phantom Menace to explain how living people connect to the mystical energy that is the Force. On Tatooine, Qui-Gon Jinn would test the young Anakin Skywalker's blood and send it in for analysis. Typically, the range for midichlorian counts for regular humans hovered somewhere between 2,500, with the average Jedi, Obi-Wan included, being somewhere around 13,000, which would prove that they were indeed Force sensitive. Obi-Wan was astounded to find that Anakin's midichlorian count was obviously massive and paled in comparison to Obi-Wan's own, a midichlorian count even passing Grandmaster Yoda's, who clocks in at around 17,700 himself. Anakin's midichlorian count was the highest ever recorded, being somewhere between 28,000 to 30,000, and George Lucas even insinuating it could possibly be as high as 40,000, meaning theoretically he could have twice the force potential of Yoda. This is a great scale to keep in mind moving forward. Anyway, on Geonosis, Count Dooku revealed to a captured Obi-Wan that there was indeed a Sith Lord in the Senate, controlling the entire war from behind the scenes. Dooku was using this information as a sort of last-ditched plea to get Obi-Wan over to his side by basically laying out all of the Empire's secrets and plans right in front of him, hoping that Obi-Wan would become Dooku's apprentice. Unfortunately for Dooku, Obi-Wan denied this information, though he did end up reporting it to the Jedi High Council. Due to these leading factors, one would think that they would start testing all senators for Force sensitivity, beginning obviously with Palpatine. Mace Windu himself even said in Revenge of the Sith that the dark side surrounds the Chancellor, so why didn't they test Palpatine's blood for midichlorians? Well, Acolytes, we have the answer today, and a revelation that some Jedi did actually think of this plan. First though, according to our analytics, a lot of you guys that watch the channel haven't actually subscribed yet, so if you've been enjoying the content and want to stay up to date with everything Star Wars related, force crush that subscribe button. One simple answer is the Jedi's hubris. The Jedi were so arrogant that they couldn't possibly believe that any Sith Lord would be in the council without them sensing it, not knowing the underlying factors that were clouding their very vision. Many factors that worked directly in Palpatine's favor: the Jedi's pride, the war at hand, and the fact that the Jedi Temple is literally built right on top of a Sith shrine. Video on that on the horizon, and possibly even Palpatine using Sith artifacts in his office to corrupt the Jedi's insight. The other, more complex answer lies in the fact that the political climate of the Clone Wars at the time was very complicated to say the least. Senate debates were outright turbulent, and not all senators cared very much for the Jedi Order. A mandated blood test from the Jedi Council to the Senate would not only be met with controversy, but outright resistance and outrage. However, there were actually two Jedi that had thought this through, and thought about giving the senators a blood test, deciding to go directly over the Council's head. However, the individual that they turned to proved to be a massive mistake, as they went directly to Palpatine for help. This master and his apprentice would explain everything to the Supreme Chancellor, and offer that perhaps if he performed a blood test, then everyone in the Senate would follow his suit, so that they could then narrow down the search for this elusive Sith Lord. It was true that this Jedi Master and Palpatine had actually been friends, or at least the Jedi Master believed that they had been friends, which is why he felt so confident going directly to Palpatine, who at the time actually had an exemplary relationship with the Jedi. Not to mention Palpatine's approval rating at the time was at an all-time high. Anyone who was someone that wanted to keep their political reputation intact were going to do as the Chancellor did. The problem the Jedi were running into was that they would need a warrant to mandate a mass blood test, and such a warrant could only come from the Supreme Chancellor. Knowing this, these two naive Jedi laid out everything before Palpatine, secretly of course Darth Sidious. Palpatine silently considered his options for a moment, knowing that he couldn't possibly go through with the test. All this time using every bit of his resources to keep the Jedi's vision clouded, furious that it could all crumble due to a simple blood test that would undoubtedly reveal his whopping 20,000 midichlorian count. A count completely passing Yoda and being second only to the Chosen One. Thinking quickly, Palpatine tactfully asked the two Jedi what Grandmaster Yoda thought of this experiment, and to their detriment, the two revealed that they hadn't told anyone of this plan. Anyone but Lord Sidious. Palpatine encouraged them to keep it to themselves while he thought it over. After the Jedi left to tend to the battlefield on the planet of Mersan, Sidious contacted Dooku and instructed him to lead a full assault on the planet, killing both Jedi in the process. With their deaths, their plan died with them, and Palpatine's secret was safe. This sort of cunning was the same thing that Palpatine used to silence 5 during the Clone Wars. It seems that tying up loose ends was something that this Dark Lord of the Sith was quite adept at. To answer the question in the beginning very plainly though, it was basically because of the political state of the galaxy as a whole. During the Clone Wars, the Jedi became warriors, and it was highly believed that the Jedi could actually take over the Republic. And it was because of this that there was much unease and distrust between the Senate and the Jedi at the time. The Jedi ordering the Senate to do something would have looked terrible on behalf of the Jedi, especially if it was a mandate. Not to mention the means of requiring this mandate, again they would have had to go to the Senate, Chancellor Palpatine, who obviously was not going to let it happen. This would have been the first sign that the Jedi were in fact going to take over, and it's likely that many of the senators would have outright refused, meaning just as Palpatine had planned, it was nearly impossible for them to test anybody's blood in the Senate, because of the massive distrust between the two groups. But anyway, my friends, what did you think of this? Was this a topic and a question that you had wondered about before? And let us know what other topics you'd like to see explored in the comments down below, as we really do appreciate your feedback and like to answer deeper questions about Star Wars lore. Until next time, my curious friends, may the Force be with you and have a great day.